I'm going to take a lockdown walk today from High Street Brading here, across the road there, into Key Lane, the length of Key Lane, across the marshes, through Centurion's Copse and eventually to Bembridge Windmill.
Standing in front of the 12th century parish church of St Mary the Virgin is the old town hall, which dates from the early 18th century. Now owned by the Brading Town Trust, it has been used as a meeting place, schoolroom and a library, as well as the testing place for weights and measures. Behind the bars are the town stocks, mysteriously with an odd number of holes of 2 different sizes, and the whipping post. The left-hand door behind was the town lockup. The rectory mansion is claimed to be the oldest house on the island. It's been a private residence, housed a waxworks, and now retail units and eateries, all closed at the moment due to lockdown, of course. The church is currently closed, but there are some interesting things in the churchyard. The gun shed was built in the mid-16th century to house the Brading gun, a small cannon given by King Edward IV to defend against invasion by the French. It was last fired in 1832, but burst. Having been stolen in 1950 and recovered, it is now kept at a house on the Numwell estate. This is the grave of Earl Osborne Smith, philosopher, inventor, film pioneer. He made children's silent films, author and composer. His son Graham Osborne Smith owned the rectory mansion for some years and founded the now long gone wax museum there. Here's the grave of little Jane Squibb, the young cottager, who died of tuberculosis at the age of 15 in 1799. Her piety was noted by the curate of St Mary's Church, the Reverend Lee Richmond, in his book The Dairyman's Daughter and Other Annals of the Poor. Apparently, Lee Richmond's other claim to fame is that he invented the church hymn board.
This is our sundial. The base is medieval, the plinth is dated 1714 and the face is engraved 1815. I don't know why somebody would make a sundial that you have to climb up to look at. The structure is the town pound. In olden days, if your sheep or cattle strayed, a local official would capture it and bring it and put it into the pound. It wasn't released until you paid a fine of between a shilling and 5 shillings. Quite a lot of money in those days. The Ryde to Shanklin Steam Railway opened in 1862 and a couple of years later was extended to Ventnor. It was part of the 55-mile network of railways that at that time existed on the Isle of Wight. Now we're down to 8.5 miles of this track from Ryde Pierhead to Shanklin, plus the 5.5 miles of steam heritage railway running from Smallwood Junction to Wootton. Sounds like a train coming now. This rolling stock dates from 1938 and proves that London tube trains do go to heaven. Is here on the Isle of Wight. In medieval times, Key Lane led to Brading's own quay, which is just beyond this point, in Brading Haven, which was the natural harbour which led out to the Solent and the English Channel. In due course, the harbour silted up, and so that is no more. At that time, this lane would have been chock-a-block with horses and carts, people pushing hand barrows and people carrying things on foot to and from the quay back to Brading. We've reached the end of Key Lane, and had we been here between 1882 and 1957, we would have had to have stopped, looked and listened at this point, because here was where the branch line came through from Brading down in that direction through to Bembridge through there. That railway closed due to lack of use long before Dr. Beeching was heard of. This embankment on which I'm walking now was constructed in the 16th century with the intention of keeping the waters of the natural harbour of Brading Haven on the left separate from the pastures that lead up to the town of Brading up the hill there.
The river that flows through the marsh is the Eastern River Yar. At this point, just south of the embankment, it splits into two. Bridged gaps in the embankment allow the two streams to pass before they reunite a little further downstream. Sluice gates at each bridging point control the water level on the marsh. Brading marshes are managed by the RSPB. They comprise a mix of lagoons, ditches, reed beds and meadows which provide habitat for wading birds such as snipe, lapwings and redshank, as well as a range of raptors and reed nesting birds. From this vantage point on Gander Down, we can see across what was the natural harbour of Brading Haven before it became silted up. In the distance is the embankment built in 1881 for the Bembridge branch line, which finally sealed the fate of the former natural harbour. On the hill just to the left of the tree is the village of St Helens. And as we swing round, we're looking back in the direction of Brading, hidden from view from here by the line of bushes. As we pass through this area redolent of a mangrove swamp, we're approaching Centurion's Copse. No one knows for sure the origins of the name, but it provides a home for a wide variety of wildlife. As well as woodpeckers and buzzards, you'd be lucky to spot a dormouse or one of our native red squirrels. Old oak trees, ash and hazel grow here. The copse is being actively managed by the RSPB and regular coppicing takes place. There's a scheme for planting new trees. The copse is rather small, and so 10 acres of new trees are being added to provide more habitat for wildlife. We've come out of the copse now. The hill in the background is Bembridge Down, and the bump in the centre of the horizon is Bembridge Fort, part of the defences built by Prime Minister Lord Palmerston to guard against French attack in the 19th century. The obelisk on the horizon is a memorial to Lord Yarborough. As an estate owner, he was considered benevolent and kind. The monument was funded by public subscription. This farmland, owned by the RSPB and lying fallow at the moment, is intended to be cultivated using non-intensive methods. Bembridge Airport. Quiet now, but there are some signs of aviation life as lockdown is slightly eased. My objectives in view. First, I'm welcomed by the Meet and Greet Committee of local residents. Bembridge Windmill was built around 1700 and was in regular use until the late 19th century. By 1913 it had become completely disused and started to fall into dereliction. Some renovations were carried out in the 1930s, and in 1958 it was donated by the owner to the National Trust. It is usually open to the public. Well, now just remains for me to make my way back to Brading. I hope you've enjoyed taking this lockdown walk with me.